Well, good afternoon, all of you. Today I am here before you with this short video on the two sections in the Indian Penal Code which are of vital importance. That two are Section 34, which deals with the common intention, and Section 139, which deals with the unlawful assembly. So, let me say a little about this section is that there is a difference between the object and the intention. Though their object is common, the intentions of several members may be differ and indeed may be similar only in respect, but they all are unlawful, while the element of participation of action, which is leading feature of section 34, is replaced in section 149 by membership of the assembly at the time of committing the offense. Both of these sections deal with the combinations of persons who become punishable as sharers of the offense. They have a certain resemblance and may to some extent overlap. But section 149 cannot in any rate resemblance and may relegate section 34 to the position of dealing only with joint action of commission of identically similar criminal acts. So this is the small line of a difference. However, for your benefit, I have made one PPT on this subject, which is what I would like to share with you all. That is joint and constructive liability under the criminal law. So under this, we have to see that how and in what manner we deal with both these sections. So let us see what the section says. The culpability of a person can be ascertained if the crime is committed personally without much of difficulty. On the other hand, when he shares his commission of crimes with others, the extent of participation of himself, and while that is of others is rather difficult to be exactly found, which is consequently makes it further an arduous task to determine the offense of each participant and corresponding culpability. So the situations are different here. So what is a joint liability? A joint liability or a group liability or constructive liability is that the terms interchangeably used to describe the liability of several persons for the acts of done by them or some of them. So here words constructive liability should not be mistaken with the concept of vicarious liability. That is a totally different concept. In vicarious liability, there is neither common object or common intention are to be proved, as it is the liability of the master for the acts of the servant or an agent during the course of the service. So, the constructive liability established rule in the law of crimes, while vicarious liability is just an exception to the rule. Going further, the concept of joint liability has been manifested clearly in section 34 to 38 of the Indian Penal Code, hereinafter referred to as which we say at IPC. Other than these, there are three more sections which talk about joint or constructive liability, which are important to be discussed here, which I feel. Section 149, which deals with unlawful assembly, which we will be dealing in the later part of today's discussion. Section 396 deals with the dacoity with murder. In section 460, housebreaking by night with murder or grievous. These are the three sections which import the constructive liability on the accused when they go and commit a offense. So section 34, what it says, when a criminal act is done by several persons in furtherance of the common intention of all, each of such person is liable for that same manner as if it has been done by him alone. So this offense creates a liability upon the person that how and in what manner it has been committed by the others. The person who has went with them would also be liable to the same act as has been done by those who were along with him while committing this set of acts. So we have postulated the essential ingredients in the pictures prescribed before you. There has to be a criminal act which has been done by several persons in furtherance of the common intention of all. That means intentions is, there is a picture which I have shown that from their mind should be a meeting should be there, each liable in the same manner as if it has been done by them alone. So These are the ingredients which has to be considered by the court while giving or awarding any sentence under section 34. So what is the legal fiction which has been created in this? It is a situation where one person committed an offense and the others can be linked to the same crime in a manner when they can said to be mutual agents of each other. Then any act done by any of them makes others equally liable for that act. Section 34 is basically framed to meet cases in which may be difficult to distinguish between the acts individual members of the party or to prove exactly what part played by each of them. So participation and common intention both are very much essential for the applicability of section 34 IPC. In the cases filing under section 34 IPC, the parties either formed the common intention by agreeing to the commission of the offense beforehand or at the spot of the crime by their conduct. What is important to tell you here that section 34 IPC does not create any substantive offense, but it is only a rule of evidence and lays down the principle of constructed liability as I have discussed it above. And the essence of the section is premeditated, that is very essential, meeting of minds of the persons participating in the offense to bring about a particular result for commission of an offense. So see, it is not necessary in all the cases that all the persons should be named and identified before booking them under the liability of section 34 IPC. Even if they are not named or they have not been booked, they can still be brought under the culpability of this section. So there are three leading judgments which we have quoted here of the Privy Councils and one of the Supreme Court, though they are very old, but they lay down the exact position of law, which says that to attract the application of section 34 IPC, the prosecution is required to prove that there existed a common intention in the form of a pre-arranged plan. So this pre-arranged plan is very important in order to establish that the act was done in furtherance of the common intention. So if this pre-arranged plan is missed, so it would definitely lead down to certain situation where the court will acquit the accused under section 34 IPC. Another essential ingredient of section 34 IPC, as discussed in the judgment of Virender Singh versus State of MP 2010 8 SCC 407, the court observed that participation in action of committing the crime along with the intention, though the participation may not be physical presence, so that can also be taken into consideration while giving or awarding sentence under section 34 IPC. So the Supreme Court in the case of Jagga Singh versus State of Punjab 2011 3 SCC 137 has stated that for proving common intention through direct evidence is rarely possible, as it depends on the inferences drawn from the circumstances of each case. However, the prosecution has to still prove that the conduct of the parties or circumstances common intention is deducible and not just similar intention, which is not sufficient for making the parties liable under section. Another important case which I have came across while preparing this note for you is Shashi Mohan versus State of MP 2008 3 SCC Criminal 439. Of this case, I will also discuss the facts with you, and along with I will tell you that what the Supreme Court has said and held in this case. So in this case, the deceased was shot by the main accused. Incident in this particular case was out of the family rivalry. Appellant was brother of the main accused. None of the eyewitnesses was said that this person who has come as an appellant in this case was anyway armed. Either no avowed act was attributed to him. It was admitted by all the eyewitnesses that he was coming from the different direction where the offense was even committed. So what Supreme Court said in this case, that there is no evidence at all to show that appellant shared a common intention with the other accused. So the conviction of the appellant under section 334 got set aside. Now let me come to this other section is 149 IPC. which is also another instance of joint or constructive liability under the Indian Penal Code. The section says if an offence is committed by any member of an unlawful assembly in prosecution of common object of that assembly, or such as member of that assembly knew to be likely to be committed in prosecution of that object, every person who at the time of committing of that offence is a member of the same assembly is guilty of that offence. So what is very important to note here, that here in this particular section the word intention is missing. So even if somebody does not fall within the intention but he has participated, then this offence is attractive. Now see that how we have prepared this, that what are the essential ingredients of section 149. So the essential ingredient says that there must be an unlawful assembly between those who have been alleged to have committed that particular offence. The offence must be committed by a member of the unlawful assembly. So you kindly see that even if it has been committed by a member of the unlawful assembly, all of them would be liable for committing the said offence. The offence must be committed in pursuance of the common object of the unlawful assembly, or the offence must be of the nature the members of the assembly had knowledge to be likely to commit it. So for this particular thing, I have referred to the case of Vijay Pandurang Thekre versus State of Maharashtra, AIR 2017, Supreme Court 897. Here the common object as specified is different from common intention, as common object need not to be premeditated plan but can be a result of the spur of the moment. It has to be unlawful common object adopted by all the members. Moreover, the participation of each member in commission of the crime is not essential. So we have to understand that as section 149 says that the preparation may be there, but even if they were not the actual participant in the crime, but they will still be liable of this. So the section specifically uses the phrase in prosecution of common object and not during the prosecution of common object, because the offence should be committed immediately and connected with the common object and not with any offence unrelated to the common object. So here if we take an example that where there was a allegation that somebody has stabbed somebody from a knife on a mere broad daylight, and whether in the later part of the investigation it revealed that all of them were together at some point of time, maybe 4, 5, 6 hours prior to the offense. So that cannot always be in all the situation will lead to the conclusion that that person who also was standing with them at 5 hours before would have the same intention which they have committed the offense after the 5 hours. So the situation and the facts varies all the time. So now, what is the burden on the prosecution to prove section 149 IPC and section 34 IPC? The burden on the prosecution of proving the charge of section 149 Indian Penal Code is much lesser than that the case of section 34 IPC. In the former case, the prosecution has to prove the existence of unlawful assembly and that the offence was committed in prosecution of the common object. Merely the physical presence of the member of the assembly would be sufficient. In the later case, for section 34, it is first required to prove the existence of the common intention, either existing beforehand or on the spot or thereafter the active participation of the accused at the time when the offence was committed. So if you see in totality, if we see both these sections, so the prime difference between section 149 and section 34 with regard to the principle of constructive liability, as I see that the word common intention is missing from section 149. So section 149 is what? It's a conclusive substantive offense in itself, while section 34 is merely a rule of evidence and has to be applied along with the other sections to build a charge against the accused persons. The participation in committing crime is another essential in section 34, while it is not required in section 149, as being a member of the unlawful assembly is itself sufficient. There is not any requirement of any overt or pervert act which has to be given to the accused while he was a part of the unlawful assembly. There is again the basic difference of common intention and common object being applicable in section 34 and section 149 respectively. So moreover, section 149 fixes the minimum number of persons who must share the common object must be 5, while there is no such number specified in section 34. Common object is wider in its scope than the common intention. With this, I conclude this small journey on this point of constructive liability of the offences under section 34 and section 149 IPC. Hope you will like this context, and I am looking forward for further such small videos on the different offences as prescribed in IPC to share with you all. Thank you. Have a nice day.